Welcome back to another FPL video and podcast. This will be the predicted lineups for Game Week 4. I've got a decent track record so far with a few clubs spot on in the first 3 game weeks, but I have to say it's going to be very difficult to predict after an international break with all the injuries, and we could get more news over the press conferences on Thursday and Friday. So take all of that into account, and in the comments section it can act as a hub to update each other on all the latest information, and if possible I will show the updated and final lineups during the deadline stream, which I have done in the last couple of live streams as well. Be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new if you enjoy my content. Our aim is to get this to the 200 likes and to keep on pushing towards 35 subscribers and beyond. Check out all the links in the description below, including Drafthound, which you can see on screen, and a bit of a spoiler alert, I'm in complete agreement with what they've gone for with the Liverpool lineup. So check out the link in the description below. For as low as £2 per week, you can sign up and gain access to all the features as a pro pay-tier member. Without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Arsenal have one of their toughest periods of the season with 3 consecutive away games, including the Champions League in matchday 1 against Atalanta. That is sandwiched in between Tottenham and Man City away, and Arsenal have been decimated by injuries in the midfield position. They can still put a relatively strong squad with David Raya in goal, the kind of same back four we'll see for the next couple of weeks in White, Saliba, Gabriel and Timber. It's worth noting that Timber came off with cramp against Brighton back in Game Week 3, but he played for the Netherlands over the international break and he's completely fine and ready for that big clash on Sunday in the North London derby. The midfield will likely be Thomas Partey, Jorginho and Kai Havertz, and that's the biggest impact of the injury to Martin Odegaard during his international commitments with Norway. He could be out for 3 to 4 weeks, and that's kind of at minimum. He's going to miss a lot of key games, including the next 2 massive clashes in the Premier League, and I think Havertz will go back into the midfield. Gabriel Jesus is near a return, and he could be in the squad against Tottenham. Don't be surprised if he's in the lineup very soon, but I think for now, we'll see Saka and Martinelli on the wings, and Leandro Trossard up front. He can play very well as a false 9. He did it on multiple occasions last season during that streak where Arsenal were putting 5 or 6 goals past multiple opponents, but not to the same calibre as what they've got coming up. So it's going to be a difficult period for the Gunners. Arteta has to get creative to find solutions, and another possibility is Raheem Sterling on the left-hand side. I think those pacey wingers could be crucial against Tottenham. One of the biggest surprises of Game Week 3 was the fact that Bogarde started at right back instead of Nedeljkovic, and most Aston Villa fans were extremely surprised to see that happen, but sometimes these things do occur, and Unai Emery went for Bogarde, who had a decent pre-season, just like Nedeljkovic, but if you based it as well off the first 2 game weeks where Matty Cash came off for Nedeljkovic, you thought it was kind of a very substantiated and logical conclusion to kind of guess that Nedeljkovic would start right back. That wasn't the case, and I think Bogarde will keep his place in Game Week 4 against Everton, but Nedeljkovic could get a start in the following weeks, especially when the Champions League comes into play, and whilst Matty Cash is still out with an injury. Emi Martinez will be in goal despite having those large travel distances to the likes of Colombia and Argentina for those games, facing Chile and Colombia in the process. Bogarde, Konsa, Pau Torres and Luka Dean is my predicted back 4. Now Konsa picked up a knock during the international break, but I think he'll be fine and ready to go against Everton at home. And Jacob Ramsey will likely displace Leon Bailey, who is currently injured, with Onana, Tielemans and McGinn. And I'm going for Rodgers behind Ollie Watkins, but don't be surprised if Duran starts alongside Ollie Watkins. I don't think he'll take Watkins' place right now, but we could see rotation in the next couple of weeks, and Duran will probably get some starts in either the Champions League or the Premier League, and he started the game against Argentina just several days ago, and I think he'll make the bench, and his role in the team right now is an impact player. Will he have the same sort of level of performance by starting the game? That remains to be seen, and we can only judge that if he gets the opportunities, which I'm sure will come for the Colombian, but I think this starting 11 is quite settled against Everton at home. The same 3 players are injured for Bournemouth in Unal, Adams and Billing, but it's worth mentioning that Kepa will be unable to play against Chelsea in Game Week 4 as he's on loan from the Blues, so it will be Travers in goal with a back 4 of Araujo, Zabani, Senesi and Kirkes, with Christian Cook as the 2 holding midfielders. There could be rotation in the attacking positions, but Semenyo will definitely start, and he's currently the best budget midfielder alongside the likes of Onana from Aston Villa. Kluivert down the middle with Tavernier on the left, and Evanilson up front, but you've also got a few other decent players in there who can start to get some minutes off these attackers, and one of them is Sinistera. So this isn't a locked-in team, particularly in the attacking areas, but Travers will definitely come in for Kepa Arrizabalaga due to the loan rule, and I think the back four is quite settled. The same would go for the two holding midfielders, and Semenyo is the best Bournemouth asset at this moment in time. Adja picked up a knock in Game Week 3, but Thomas Frank downplayed the injury on the 31st of August, and he said, I hope and I think you'll be okay. This was several weeks ago now, so I think Adja will be in the starting 11 in that very tough game against Manchester City away, and I'm going for Flecken in goal with a back four of Ruslev, Collins, Pinnock and Adja. Now, we saw Ruslev on the bench, and actually it was Janelt playing as a fullback with Damsgaard in the midfield, but that was a very offensive lineup against Southampton at home. I don't think they'll replicate that in 2 away games against Manchester City and Tottenham. The midfield three is quite settled for me in Norgard, Jensen and Janelt, with Mbeumo, Wissa and possibly Schade on the left, but we could see Lewis Potter in that position instead, and he started in the last tough game, so to speak, for Brentford in Game Week 2. So just bear that in mind. That is another possibility there for the Bees, but I think Schade's pace can be quite useful in those 2 away games against Man City or Tottenham, but rotation with Lewis Potter is inevitable. Brighton have multiple injury doubts, which include Wiffa and Milner in the midfield, so this position could see quite a lot of change and a surprise inclusion in this starting 11, but I'm going for Verbruggen in goal and Veltman as the right back. He has been pass fit by the manager Ursula in the press conference today. The back four should also include Van Heck, Dunk and Hinselwood, but it could also be a Stupinian or the new signing Kadioglu at left back. I'm going for Wiffa and Baleba in the central midfield with Minter, Mitoma, Joao Pedro and Danny Welbeck, but a lot of these players had large travel distances during the international break, and that includes Minter, Joao Pedro and Mitoma, so there could be rotation in these positions as well. Adingra is another one who could come in, but he also played over the international break. The next 2 fixtures look amazing, then it gets tough for the Seagulls, but overall there's a very competitive starting 11. Chelsea have several yellow flags, which include Cole Palmer and Gusto, but Cole Palmer has featured in Chelsea training throughout the week, and that flag will soon disappear. He's going to start against Bournemouth away. I would have no concerns about that whatsoever. The same goes for other players pulled out of the England squad like Ollie Watkins and Phil Foden. Robert Sanchez will be in goal with a back four that will likely comprise of Malo Gusto, Fofana, Colwill and Cucurella. If Gusto isn't available, we could see a bit of a shift. Maybe Caicedo can play as a right back. He has done it before with Reece James still out injured, and they can go for another midfielder like Dewsbury Hall. But I'm going for Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo as the 2 holding midfielders with Palmer, Madueke, Joao Felix, who didn't play much for Portugal over the 2 games, and Nicholas Jackson up front.
Nicholas Jackson.
Even if the next 2 are away from home, Chelsea can score plenty of goals in those matches. I don't trust them defensively, but Cole Palmer is by far the best option the Blues have to offer. Crystal Palace picked up the first point of the season against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and things are looking much more positive now after a very decent end to the transfer window. Signing Chalobah on loan, and Lacroix could also be another very fine pick in central defence. I think he'll start alongside Chris Richards and Mark Gay, but Lacroix hasn't really played much football in the last month or so, and Chalobah hasn't played any minutes since May, so we could see something a bit unorthodox, or maybe Nathaniel Klein as the right centre-back, but I'm going for this defensive line with Dean Henderson in goal. Wharton is a doubt, but I think he'll play against Leicester at home, alongside Cheik Doucouré, who returned from injury very recently. Tyrick Mitchell and Munoz will likely be the wing-backs, with Kamada, Eze and Mateta up front. The signing of Eddie Nketiah could cause an imbalance or a shock to the system. He could displace Kamada with a front 2 for Crystal Palace of Jean-Philippe Mateta and Eddie Nketiah, and that could work very well in the future. I can see Nketiah combining very well with Eze, for example, but there's a very good squad for Crystal Palace. Only a few injury doubts, like Chadi Riyad, who picked up that problem during the Carabao Cup several weeks ago, Adam Wharton, as I just mentioned, Rob Holding, and Mateus Oliveira, who is completely ruled out. If you aren't used to it by now, Sean Dyche's favourite phrase when describing a player's availability is touch and go, and that refers to Seamus Coleman after he picked up an issue against England for the Republic of Ireland. Jordan Pickford will be in goal. I'm going for Coleman at right back, but it could be Roman Dixon, who played very well against Tottenham considering the circumstances. Tarkowski, Keane and Mikolenko is the likely back four, but I'm quite surprised to see Jake O'Brien not getting any minutes. I think he deserves an opportunity and he could solidify that Everton defence that have conceded 10 goals in the first 3 game weeks. And Branthwaite is still out, but I'd expect him to be available against Leicester away. He has been in training for the last couple of days. The midfield four will likely be Harrison, Idrissa Gana Gueye, Eric Bonham and McNeil, with Ndai just behind Calvert-Lewin. And once you saw Ndai come off the pitch, Everton really struggled to hold on to the ball. The core didn't have an impact whatsoever, and Eric Bonham was very tired towards the end of that game, but he's been one of Everton's shining lights in an otherwise dismal season so far. Aston Villa away looks very tough, but the fixtures until Game Week 14 in early December are fantastic. As things stand, Fulham have had no injury problems whatsoever this season, and long may it continue. Leno will be in goal with Tete, Anderson, Bassi and Robinson as the likely back four. There's always going to be doubts further down the road about Tete versus Castagna, and at the moment Anderson isn't guaranteed to start games, but it's only a matter of time until he breaks into the starting 11. He's a massive upgrade on Diop, and I could see Bassi and Anderson being one of the better centre-back partnerships in the Premier League. Andres Pereira and Lukic will likely start in midfield with Adama Traore, Smith Rowe, Iwobi and Rodrigo Muniz, who has been a big disappointment so far, but the next 3 fixtures look very enticing for Fulham. They could score several goals and Rodrigo Muniz can finally deliver. Depending on the opposition, Ipswich Town can shift from a back 3 to this 4-2-3-1, which is McKenna's preferred formation, and I think they'll play this in the next couple of weeks, where the fixtures look much better than they did for the first 2 game weeks of the season against Liverpool and Manchester City. Muric will be in goal with a back 4 of Twansebi, Wolfenden, Greaves and Leif Davis. He's by far the most nailed on and attacking option in that defence, so Davis would be worth the extra 0.5 million, but I do like Greaves as one of the better 4 million enablers in this position. I also expect Morsey to partner Phillips in central midfield with Ogbene, who was at Luton Town last season, and Hutchinson on the wings. Now, Omari Hutchinson is a slight doubt, but he should be available for Game Week 4, and I believe he has been past fit, so there should be no concerns about that whatsoever. Smodix just behind Delap is also a very solid attacking partnership, and I could see Ipswich Town scoring plenty of goals and getting a few decent results in the next couple of weeks. In his press conference today, Steve Cooper said there are no fresh injury concerns or fitness problems following the international break, and the only unavailable player that's new in Game Week 4 is Edouard, because he can't play against Crystal Palace, his parent club. He is loaned from the Eagles, and thus he can't play in this game. I'm going for Hermansen in goal and a back 4 of James Justin, Wout Faes, Okoli and Christensen, but it could also be a possibility that Ricardo Pereira comes in at right back, and a lot of Leicester City fans want to see him start games over James Justin. Winks and Ndidi is the likely midfield partnership with Buonanotte, Fatau and Ayew just behind Jamie Vardy. And another player that Leicester fans are crying out for is Mavididi, who played very well for them in the Championship last season, and he could start on the left-hand side instead of Jordan Ayew, who will be facing his former club in Crystal Palace. Liverpool only have a handful of injury concerns, which includes Harvey Elliott, Chiesa and Curtis Jones. Alisson will be in goal with Trent, Kanate, Van Dijk and Robertson seeming very nailed on at the moment. They haven't conceded a single goal so far this season. Gravenberch, McAllister and Szoboszlai is the midfield 3 with Salah, Jota and Diaz up front. Now, a lot of these players, including Alisson, McAllister and Diaz, have very large travel distances, and Jota played the full 90 in Portugal's recent game, but I'd still expect an unchanged Liverpool side for Game Week 4. Back in Game Week 1, I got Manchester City spot on with my first predicted lineup of the season, and in Game Week 2, just the one incorrect with Phil Foden because he picked up an illness. Then in Game Week 3, a few incorrect. I do hold my hands up, but after an international break, it's going to be almost impossible to guess what Pep Guardiola is going to do, especially when you've got Inter Milan at home in the Champions League in a couple of days' time and a massive game against Arsenal in the following game week. followed up by Newcastle away. It's a very congested fixture schedule, and Man City have so many options in each position. Nathan Ake picked up an injury, which looks like a bad one, with the Netherlands, and hopefully recovers very soon. But it'll be Edison in goal, and a likely back three of Stones, Ruben Dias and Gvardiol, but Akanji has been very nailed on so far this season, but I would expect him to come in against Inter Milan for the Champions League, and against Arsenal we'll probably see Akanji displace John Stones. So eventually one of these players will replace the other, and it's just a matter of in which games do they start. And for Brentford, I'm going for this defensive line, but it could be wrong. I'm also going for Rico Lewis and Kovacic as the two holding midfielders, so to speak, as Man City are playing this 3-2-4-1 formation, which Pep experimented with during his time at Bayern Munich. I'm going for Savio on the right wing. He has been a doubt and yellow flagged for several days now, but he has been in training and he should be available to start against Brentford. Doku on the left with Foden and Gundogan as the two midfielders, and it's worth noting that the German Ilkay Gundogan has retired from international duty, so that also enables him to be fresher for this game. And Rodri is available once again. He played for Spain during the international break and he served that one-game suspension issued by UEFA, so he could play and start against Inter Milan during midweek, and I think that will be the case where Rodri starts against Inter Milan and Arsenal. Erling Haaland will be up front. There has been a few murmurs about him potentially not starting. I'm not really expecting that to be the case. He should be available and ready to go, and overall, Man City are looking very strong at the moment. Erik ten Hag will have his press conference after the recording of this video, so if anything significant is said there, it will be reflected in the update graphics on screen. But I'm going for Onana in goal, a back four of Mazraoui, De Ligt, Lisandro Martinez and Dalot, with Ugarte partnering Mainu in midfield. We could see Casemiro start for the time being, Garnacho, Bruno Fernandes, Rashford and Xerxes, but United have several options in these positions and we could see Diallo start over Garnacho, especially with the Argentine being called up to the national team. He didn't play any minutes actually in the second game against Colombia, but he did against Chile and provided an assist with an immediate impact. But I have to say with Garnacho, he did like an Instagram post where he was kind of backing what Ronaldo said about Ten Hag, and based on what's happened in the past, we could see Garnacho on the bench for that very reason. Let me know what you think down the comment section below, but assuming that Ten Hag doesn't look too much into it, I think Garnacho will start, but Diallo still has a very good case of being the starting right winger for Manchester United, and maybe Marcus Rashford will drop to the bench with both youngsters starting at the same time. Southampton away is a great fixture. After that, it does get a bit tough for the Red Devils, and Bruno Fernandes picked up a knock during his time with Portugal, but Roberto Martinez downplayed it and said it's completely fine. Newcastle will be delighted to have Fabian Schär returning from suspension, and he will massively bolster that defensive line. Nick Pope in goal with Livramento, Schär, Byrne and Kelly suddenly looks a lot stronger, and with the return of Fabian Schär, we could see Lewis Hall reintroduced into the starting 11 as he has been benched in the last two game weeks, and Lloyd Kelly provided an assist in a 2-1 victory over Tottenham Hotspur. The midfield three is very likely to be Bruno Guimaraes, Longstaff and Joelinton, with a front three of Gordon, Isak and Harvey Barnes. We could see Gordon shifted to the left and Jacob Murphy as the right winger, but Harvey Barnes scored the opening goal against Tottenham, and either way, Newcastle have some decent options to come off the bench and make an immediate impact. You're probably not going to start him this week, but Chris Wood is a doubt for Game Week 4 against Liverpool away, as he has to be assessed after a late return from international duty. This is according to the manager, Nuno Espirito Santo. Danilo is the only long-term absentee for Nottingham Forest, but there are two new concerns, which include Willy Bolly and Sangari, who are both forced out of the Ivory Coast squad without kicking a ball, and as a result, I have gone for Anderson partnering Ward-Prowse, who would make his debut for Nottingham Forest in his loan spell from West Ham, and Sells in goal, Williams, Milenkovic, Murillo and Aina as the back four, with Elanga, Gibbs-White, Hudson-Odoi and Chris Wood, but it isn't a guarantee they will start. We could see Awani up front at Anfield against Liverpool, so let's keep an eye out for it. My two major concerns would be Sangari or Anderson, and also Awani or Chris Wood, based on the press conference just now. If you're a Nottingham Forest fan, and the same goes for any other club covered in this video, you are more than welcome to provide your thoughts down the comment section below. Russell Martin has stated that everyone bar Bazanu and Sulemana are fit, and that includes Ross Stewart, who was a doubt going into Game Week 4. Ramsdale will be in goal, with Harwood Bellis, Stevens and Bednarik as the likely back three, but it is a possibility that Harwood Bellis drops to the bench. The two wing-backs will be Sugawara and Walker-Peters, who are arguably the best players in the starting 11, with Smallbone, Downs and Aribo in central midfield, and Archer partnering Brereton Diaz, who was subbed off early for Chile during the international break, but he should be fine, according to the manager, Russell Martin. Now, Armstrong could still start, and maybe Cameron Archer will make an impact off the bench, but I think we could see a bit of a shock in the starting 11, with Cameron Archer getting his first Premier League start of this season, and he did very well in the Carabao Cup for the Saints. Tottenham Hotspur are expected to have several key players return from injury ahead of the North London derby clash with Arsenal. Mickey van der Ven and Solanke would be massive boosts, especially considering the injuries Arsenal have at this moment in time. But Basuma is a fresh injury concern from the international break, so let's see what Ange Postecoglou says in his press conference tomorrow. But Vicario will be in goal with Borro, Romero, van der Ven and Udogie. Basuma partnering Bentancur if they're both fit. Kulusevski, Maddison, Son and Solanke up front. Let's say, just for argument's sake, that Solanke is unavailable. I think Kulusevski will play up front and then Brennan Johnson on the right-hand side. And if Basuma's unavailable, it will be Pape Sarr partnering Bentancur in central midfield. And finally, for Mickey van der Ven, it will be Dragusin partnering Christian Romero in central defence. But I'm very confident that all these players will be available. According to the West Ham manager, Julian Lopetegui, Fulkrug is being evaluated with a little problem. He will be a late call, but Areola has recovered very well after going off in Game Week 3. Aaron Creswell is the only other flag player, so I'm expecting the Frenchman to be between the sticks ahead of Fabianski, Wan-Bissaka, Mavropanos, Kilman and Emerson Palmieri, with Soucek coming back into the starting 11 instead of Edson Alvarez, and Guido Rodriguez will be the midfield partner, with Paqueta, Bowen, Kudus and Mikel Antonio. The next four fixtures look quite decent for West Ham, and suddenly their fixtures actually experience a nice swing in their favour, and they've got decent options on the bench like Somerville, who might get some opportunities later down the line, but it's going to be very difficult to displace one of Bowen, Paqueta or Kudus. There are several flag players for Wolves in the FPL website, and that includes Lamina and Ait Nouri, but I think both of them will start against Newcastle at home, and I'm going for Johnston in goal with Semedo, Mosquera, Dawson and Totti, with Bellegarde, Joao Gomez, Lamina and Ait Nouri as the midfield four, and then Mateus Cunha partnering Larson up front, and Cunha does thrive as the second striker or attacking midfielder for his club or country. So I think this will be the starting 11 for Wolves, but they do play a lot of different formations and they've got a lot of different options, particularly in the winger positions like Rodrigo Gomez. You've also got Guedes, so I'm not entirely sure about this starting 11, but this is what I'm going with right now. And as expected, Dawson did come into the starting 11 in Game Week 3. That's one of the things I did get right with that predicted lineup. The next three fixtures look tough. Afterwards, it gets better for Wolves, and Mosquera is one to look at as a 4 million defender. That wraps up the predicted lineups for Game Week 4. Check out the deadline stream, as I might show you the updated and final versions of the predicted lineups, because things can happen over the next couple of days, and the press conferences give a lot of insight at times, especially when managers are forthright and very open about the injuries and situations. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Our aim is to get this to the 200 likes and to keep on pushing towards new goals like 35 subscribers. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the other links in the description below for my Patreon and the channel memberships for early access to my videos, amongst many other perks, the Discord server, FPL League, Drafthound, as well as Spotify. Leave a 5-star review on my podcast. It goes a long way to supporting my channel. I wish you all the best of luck for Game Week 4 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.